Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm Utku, Jonathan, and we are all in the political science department, so he knows us. Thank you for coming. I'm a doctoral lecturer, and I'll let Rosa introduce herself.
My name is Rosa Squillacote. I'm also a doctoral lecturer in political science. I've been teaching in CUNY since 2012, over 10 years now, and I've been at John Jay for about 3 or 4 years.
So yeah, I also have been at John Jay or other CUNY schools as an adjunct for about 10, 15 years. So Rosa and I have been teaching a lot of Introduction to American Governments.
Mhm.
And we were asked by Gina today to make a presentation about how we modify our syllabi, including our curriculum and how we modify our curriculum, as well as the document, the syllabus as a document per se. So we wanted to talk about a few challenges we've been having, a few of the lessons we've learned from teaching Introduction to American Government for a long time, how things have been changing in recent years, and we wanted to talk about some possible solutions that we've thought of, and we really would like it to be more of a conversation rather than a lecture. It's a workshop. We don't have obviously all the answers or all of the best ideas. We're not sure exactly how certain things work or will work. There are some things we have tried, some things we're thinking of trying. So please feel free to jump in at any time and like share your experiences or your ideas, especially about the particular strategies we're going to talk about. But in any case, here's the plan. We're first going to do introductions, and then we're going to talk about what these challenges might be, and specifically the focus of the presentation is how we go about teaching Gen Z and Gen Alpha students post-pandemic in this digital world, in this political climate. Because we have seen certain things have changed since, especially before the pandemic, and we've been around for 10, 15 years, and we've noticed changes in the general skill sets of our students. We've noticed changes in the classroom atmosphere. We've noticed changes in what students are like, what they like to do. And we're going to discuss that. And the best part of this is we get to hear from you what your challenges and what your potential solutions might be. It's all about sharing our experiences here. We're going to open a discussion with what our challenges are, ask you what your challenges might be. We'll talk about some possible strategies to try, both in terms of what to specifically put in the syllabus as a document, but also in terms of how to design the whole curriculum and what we do inside the classroom. Uh, we'll talk about some of these methods. We'll open the conversation. We'll talk about how you like some of these strategies, or if you've tried some of these strategies. We'll talk about some best practices. We'll exchange experiences. And then we'll share and close the discussion with a group discussion. We'll see where we're at and wrap it up at the end of the presentation. So let's go about. Rosa, would you like to?
Yeah. Why we'll do introductions. You can give us your name, your pronouns, the classes that you teach, what you're looking for out of this workshop, why you signed up for it. And then if you want to pick a nick cage that describes your current emotional state. So I can get started. My name is Rosa. My pronouns are she and her. I teach in political science. I teach intro government, intro to research in political science, and gender and the law. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about any strategies other people have used and successes and challenges with those strategies. And I am feeling very number four, Nick Cage, very excited. So I'll call on somebody to go next, and then we could just do popcorn style call. Each person calls on the next person. And the first person I see up is Kendra.
I teach in the psychology department in the master's programs, forensic psychology and forensic mental health counseling. So a bit of a range, psychology and law, counseling and psychotherapy methods, family violence and disputes. I am feeling number 6, a little stressed with the start of the semester around the corner.
Me too.
Yes. In good company then. And yeah, I'm really just looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say about the syllabi, and both in terms of content in the actual document, and then, various ways to update assignments or the actual curriculum. So thanks for doing this.
Great to have you. And would you pick somebody else to go next, Kendra?
Sorry, yes.
No.
I see Jonathan Kranz here next to me.
I hope you can hear me, because I never know whether, can you hear me? Good.
Yes.
I've been at John Jay since the early 90s, and before that was Rutgers Newark, and I've done part-time work at Baruch, Hunter, and Brooklyn. And I've been teaching 101 all of those years, but last, I think 8 or 10 years, I've been doing the American presidency class. That's 220. And so I don't know any of you, because my 101 is at 8 o'clock in the morning, and my presidency class is at 9:25, and most of you are probably still in bed. I do want to pass on, if you haven't found out, the bagel place at 57th and 10th offers a 15% discount to John Jay. So if you are a bagel and coffee person, you can save a few dollars by going to the bagel place. I've seen a lot of changes. I've been using a basic textbook, and they suddenly announced this year that they were not going to publish it. They were going to put it online, ebook. And I said to myself, and maybe you have some thoughts, if a student has 4 classes, 2 books in each class, that would mean that potentially they would have 8 ebooks for their semester. Can you think of happily reading 8 ebooks in a pattern, and then taking exams and such? And so I am a little concerned about how we will transmit information to students if we all are forced by our publishers to go to ebooks. And I've been using I guess a 300 or 400 page textbook, Ginsburg's Core, the middle book. And I would assume that that's pretty basic, and that's hundreds of pages of reading on a screen, but they're 4 classes and so on. And I, just practically speaking, am concerned. I'm probably the end of my career, but what it's going to be like in 5 or 8 years, when we are expecting students to perhaps not come to class very often, remote, ebooks, maybe they come twice a month for exams or something. And I think that's an interesting issue that we should discuss, or you as the future faculty should consider. How happy are you looking forward to that kind of an arrangement?
Maybe they can attend as holograms or something in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I do, and I in both my classes, I have a reader. And the readers are relatively short, but they are the actual documents by people in that historical range. They're not professors writing about something, but it's the reading. So you want to read Federalist Papers, then you're reading what Alexander Hamilton wrote.
So
And I
that's,
always
yes,
have,
I'm
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, that's something we wanted to talk about is how to, because our students are having a hard time keeping up with readings or doing much of any of the readings at this point. One idea that we were going to talk about was to have them read primary documents in class with us all together. So that was one thing that we were going to talk about. And another thing that you mentioned is the whole ebook versus a paper textbook situation. And one of the things that we're worried about is digital tools. As well as the nature and the length of the readings. So yeah, we'd like to talk about those things today, is what I
Well,
want.
it
So
used to be that
I just, in the interest of time, I want to get through introductions so that we
oh, okay.
can get into the more substantive conversations. Jonathan, do you want to pick a Nick Cage for us, and then we can move on?
Well, I don't know. I only have a few names here in front of me, so somebody else is going to have to pick another name.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
Gina, Gina's not ours. Kendra's gone. You two I know, and I'm there.
Okay.
So,
Next up, I see on my screen is Rocio.
okay, good.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosa Carranza Brito. I teach, my pronouns are she, her, ella. I teach Spanish in the Modern Languages and Literature department. And I teach Spanish for heritage speakers. That means students that who are bilingual. So we try um, to help them to improve their academic skills. What do I hope to get out of this workshop? Some strategies or hints or whatever. Because after pandemic, I'm clueless with the students. I don't understand why they want. Uh, and I suspect that they don't either. So that's why. If I pick a nick, I think I'm a little between 6 and 9. Thank you.
Very fair. Okay, Phoebe, why don't you go next?
Bruce is next to me.
Oh, sorry. Did I go or wait?
Well,
Phoebe.
technically,
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Hi, Rocio. Thank you for putting this together. My name is Vivi Calderaro, she, her, ella. Also, I speak Spanish. I've been teaching at John Jay for 2 years, heading into my third year. So I only know post-pandemic students and mindsets. I teach in the interdisciplinary studies program, which is wonderful in the sense that it brings many different worldviews together, and we make a lot of discussions, and we work. It's very student-centered. And I also teach in the environmental justice and sustainability program, where because of the way that I teach and my philosophy of teaching, I bring in a lot of the pedagogies from ISP to EJS. One thing that I'm looking forward to understanding a little bit better is the Gen Z, because I keep getting the idea that students, or directly from them, that the students really don't want to read anymore. So how to make them critical thinkers, how to make them curious, how to continue or instill a passion for knowing and learning and wanting to change anything at this point, and what is there to be changed in this political landscape, and how to change things that we might think are still changeable. I don't know. So all of those things I'm trying to bring to class, and in different ways. So I'm really excited I'm looking forward to this discussion. And in terms of what Nick, I kind of like feel all of them at once or at different moments throughout the day. Yeah, so that's me. Let me see who's there. Crystal.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Crystal Cotton, pronoun she, her. I teach UGR 277 experiential learning for the ACE program, and I've been teaching that since 2016. Just like BB, everything you said, all the things.
Mhm.
I am finding that students don't want to read and they are very reluctant about critical thinking and challenging the status quo and anything that isn't just theory and concept. And again, I want them, obviously, because it's an experiential learning class, to bring in their experiences, but also to be able to formulate opinions and positions and ideas about how to bring about change. The focus of my course is pretrial services and criminal justice reform. And so there's a lot in the world for them to connect to, but they don't want to read. And that's what I hope to get from this workshop. I did not know there was so many Nick facial expressions. I only know number 6, but that's not the one I'm choosing. I'm choosing excited. I am excited to get some new ideas to refresh my syllabus and again to connect with Gen Z, which is a challenge. Thank you. And I will popcorn it to Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Fischel Walovic. My pronoun is she, her. I teach family violence and disputes, and I also developed the class on child maltreatment. I have been teaching at John Jay since 2015, but I was on leave for the last year and a half, so this is a challenge for me to come back. I am thinking a lot about AI and what impact that might have on my students' ability to think critically and to read original source documents, which is what I really want them to get out of my class, to really be able to think critically and to form their own opinions based on real data and real research. So I hope that I can get something about that from this, and also kind of update my syllabus to reflect this new generation. So thank you. Oh, and I guess I'm picking, I'm sorry, I don't see everybody, so that's the problem. So if anyone else wants to pick someone.
Yeah, I think the last person who hasn't gone yet is Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Epstein. I've been teaching at John Jay in the history department since around 2006. My pronouns are he, him. I'm not really sure what I want to get out of this seminar, this workshop. I'm always looking for ways to tweak my syllabus and make it better, get the students more involved. And I don't really see my Nick there. Might be 8.
Yeah, it's very relatable.
Mm.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Next slide. Yeah. So, some of you guys have already talked about this. We have ourselves noticed, I mean, certainly, I think one of the biggest things from a pedagogical perspective is this resistance to reading at home. Utku and I both have experienced just students will not, if you assign them something to read, they won't read it, right? Or maybe 1 or 2 of them will, or they'll skim it, but they won't come to class. This idea that you come to class having read something for the class and that that's a basic expectation isn't really something that seems like a fair expectation to set anymore, right? I want to preface this discussion of the challenges that we're experiencing with these younger students by saying, I don't like this idea that like the younger generations are bad, right? Or worse somehow. I think, I've been teaching a long time, It's always been a struggle to figure out how to engage students. When I was a student, I remember teachers talking about this. If you read about professors in the Victorian era, right, they are also complaining about their students not doing work, not understanding work, not getting it. So I think it is not, the framework that I really want to emphasize is not that younger students are uniquely worse in the history of education, but rather what the specific challenges are, right? What is, as professors, as educators, what are the strategies that we need to develop to effectively communicate with them and educate them and learn with them, et cetera, et cetera. So part of that is reading, doing work outside of the class, which we'll have a section here when we talk about learning outside of the classroom, engagement outside of the classroom. Smartphones, laptops. This is not necessarily new, but in my observation, more exaggerated, right? That students are just on their phones, on their laptops, constantly, not necessarily to take notes or to look something up, but to be distracted.
And they have
AI,
shorter attention spans.
the attention
They
spans.
well, this is related to the issue about not doing the readings, but they have less patience and less of an attention span in terms of sticking to like a 30-minute reading experience or a 1 hour lecture. And that's something that we just have to. And again, I
Yeah.
agree totally with Rosa that it's not that they're deficient, it's just that things are changing and things always change. And we've all been around, like we said, for 10, 15 years at least as teachers. And we've seen this firsthand and it's changing and they're becoming different. And the pandemic happened, which also led to a lot of learning loss, but also a lot of changes in the sorts of things that students like to do or are able to do. So again, yes, without judgment, they're different, times are different. We need to do something different was our perspective because and this some of this experience came out of reading our student comments and how in the same class some students would be like, this is the most interesting class ever, I love this, I love talking about politics, and other students in the same class were saying, I'm totally bored, this is and you could see it in their face while you were teaching them, or they were totally distracted, like Rosa said, by their phones or their computers. A lot of students have had headphones in their ears. I don't know if you've had this experience as well, while you're talking to them, while you're teaching them, while you're trying to communicate with them, or while you're trying to have them do some sort of classwork. You could see that they're detached, distracted, somewhere else with their headphones in their ears. You can always see them looking sideways at their phones, picking up their phones every 2, 3 minutes, shuffling, going outside. Like I said, attention issues, distraction issues. And another thing that was mentioned, of course, is the question of AI, and we've also been struggling with that. At first, it was like, oh, just I sort of ignored it, and I acted like nothing was different. And then I found out everybody was already on AI, everybody was already using AI, and
Yeah.
then I started wrestling with how to grade papers that used a lot of AI, how to spot them. Then I wrestled with how to take AI and make it a useful learning tool, and we're working on that. We're and TLC, thanks to TLC and thanks to a lot of other PD developments or PD programs in at John Jay, we're working on educating ourselves about AI, and we're working on how to integrate it into our classes without it being a cheating tool. We want to turn it into some sort of a learning tool, something that we don't avoid or ignore, but we actively use and recognize. So these are some of the challenges we've had. Attention issues, distraction issues, literacy issues, not being able to read the 30-page academic readings that students used to be able to read or students used to want to read in 2010. So what are your issues, if we can ask the group to speak up a little bit? Some of you, again, mentioned it, but is there something that anybody wants to add or expand on? So what's going on? Why would you revise your syllabi? What are the challenges that you're having? If anybody wants to just jump in and tell us about their experience.
Sorry, I just
Please.
jumping in.
Yeah, jump in.
Please do. And I'm sorry. Please, while we're doing this presentation, it's supposed to be collaborative, active learning, guys. We're
Yes.
interacting. So please jump in because like we don't know what's going on exactly, what we should exactly be doing, what the challenges are exactly. We're relying on you to share. Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Basically, I've been adding a lot of podcasts, videos to supplement the reading, trying to thin down the reading as I go because and I've also used Perusal for readings in one semester that I co-teach at ISB. I forgot to mention that. So my co-teacher for that semester was very knowledgeable of how to use Perusal. Now I'm trying to learn myself for other classes. I think it helped the students a lot to annotate and to stay in the reading, etc. But particularly, I'm concerned about the assignment section of my syllabus because as you've mentioned, AI use is everywhere, and I've learned how to spot it, but then I don't know how to make it better so that they use it as a learning tool and not as a cheating tool. So that's one thing that I want to tighten also because of, I have a 4-course load per semester. So assignments need to be very specific so that I know that they are targeted for their learning, but also assuming a lot of time that I need to give feedback to those assignments. So I need to think very strategically about the assignments that I give. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to, hearing other people what they're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to share? I assume you're having a lot of the similar issues that we've been talking about, especially in terms of what has changed for you since the pandemic. If anyone wants to talk about their experience.
I also just want to ask, like, as a gauge, because maybe it's just me and Utku, how many of you have had students just wear headphones throughout the class? Is that like
Yeah.
a thing that other people have experienced?
Yes.
It
How do you
cracks,
like
it
it?
cracks me up. I'm like, why? What are
I
are your
don't.
ears cold? Like, what is happening? Okay, so let's move on.
Yes, so I think everyone's having the same similar issues, and let's see what we can come up with in terms of some solutions, possibly, or
So
at
our
least we need to cope. We might not find
so
solutions exactly, but we need to cope. Go ahead.
So our sort of approach to thinking about what it means to modify a syllabus is both to think of the syllabus as a document in and of itself. So what information are we putting inside this document? The syllabus as a sort of reference point, as a roadmap, a guide to the semester. You know, when I was in college, the big thing was that the syllabus is a contract between the professor and the students. So what am I promising them and what do I expect in exchange? And how do I make that explicit in this document at the beginning of the semester? But the other thing is to think of the syllabus sort of as a symbol of course design, right? So if we think of the syllabus as a roadmap or a guide, what is the geography that the syllabus is guiding them through? Right? Where are we taking them over the course of the semester? And how can we, using that approach, adapt to the changes that our students are experiencing? Right. So yeah, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, so the first thing is then the syllabus as a document, and how should we update it in terms of the rules, the policies, the words that we put in there. Like Rosa said, it's supposed to be, or it's thought of as a contract, it's thought of as a list of policies, the sort of bylaws of this association we're entering into. And there are some new things we have to put in there now. We have to address the question of ChatGPT a lot more explicitly. And as we've said, we have to think about the use of tech and put that in writing more explicitly. And most of our discussion today, most of the workshop today is going to be aimed at, I know there's workshop right after us about how to increase engagement by students in the class. But yet a lot of our workshop is also aimed at what do we do in the class as part of a curriculum, as part of how the class works, uh, to have them participate or be engaged. Because the heart of the issue, the heart of the challenge we're facing is they're distant, they're checked out sometimes, or at least some of them, because one of the things that I mentioned that I'd like to dwell on sometimes is that there is a wide variety of students. Maybe there's a wider variety than there used to be. There are some who are like super into it, who are super knowledgeable about politics in our case, and of course they want to talk about this and that, and some of them just find it so boring and distant. And maybe also there is a difference in terms of their level of preparation and their literacy levels and their knowledge. So side note, one thing that we do in the political science department is we give them a content knowledge quiz in the beginning of the semester and at the end of the semester, so that we have a baseline and we know where they're starting at. And we see from that that there is a big variety. There's a a lot of variation in terms of how much students know, but also there's a lot of variation in terms of how much attention they have, how distracted they are. So, in terms of policies, we are of two minds about in-class tech use, for example, and we'd like to discuss this with you and hear what you think, because one way to increase class participation is to use tech and use it to our advantage, because the one thing that differentiates this generation is their uh, adeptness at tech, their some might say addiction to tech. So
Yeah.
we're of two minds in terms of how to integrate that into our classes. First, well, there's too much. One option is there's too much distraction. Should we ban all the tech that they bring in? I think the economics department, I've heard in other workshops, or at least some of them there, have sort of a pre-digital classroom policy. And then you might rely more on lectures, group discussions, writing in class, reading in class together. But also, yes, that sounds very attractive to me personally, but I don't know how realistic it is. And I don't know how useful it is. So another way to think about it is how do we integrate it into our class activities? How to use tech. We'll talk about what kinds of tech in terms of low stakes in class activities. And we're of two minds about this. We'd like to discuss this throughout, but I'm leaning into some sort of a mixture of the two types of styles in my new syllabi. I'm going to, I think, say, I would like you to put away your phones, but of course, the fact that they need ebooks is an obstacle to that. Sometimes they need ebooks, and sometimes they need to look up stuff in their books. But I would like them to put away their tech until it's time to do something together as a class, an activity using an app, using a digital resource as a class together until it is time for that. Put away your phones, please. But now let's take out our phones and do this. Another issue that we've all had is how to use ChatGPT. And of course, and you could have a whole workshop on this. We're not going to dwell too much on AI, but it is a question. Well, what is the responsible use? What are we going to tell them? How are they going to use it? And one thing that I should say in passing is, of course, plagiarism is not okay. Using it to write your paper, if I detect it through some sort of an AI detector, there's going to be consequences. But why don't we use it as a learning tool? For example, when I was teaching my research class, or we have research papers and even the introductory class, I have had students use it together as a class with me, and I have used it to find resources, like what are some good sources that we could access AI about presidential power. Or we can use it as part of an in-class exercise. One thing that I've done, for example, is when we start in 101 to talk about the US Constitution, I've pulled up ChatGPT and asked it, what is a democracy? And it has given us an answer, and then we discussed it as a class. We evaluated its answer as a class. We critiqued its answer as a class. So there are ways that it can be used in certain roles rather than other roles. But like we
Yeah.
said, most of this is about what are some of the things that we're going to use in the classroom to engage the students better, and how do we increase the weight of in-class participation in our final grades. And what I personally, I think Rosa and I are in agreement on this, what we want to do is to have some different in-class assignments, extra in-class assignments, many of which might require or use tech, but and then increase the value, the weight of participation, the participation in the final grade, and roll a lot of these in-class activities and assignments into that participation. And because what I've done in the past is, here's 10% for your participation and attendance. I will take attendance, and that's it. You came, you didn't come. This is 10% of your grade. Rather than that, we want to switch to let's do a lot of these activities in class, uh, switch up our assignments, and let's increase the meaning and the weight of participation in our final grades. And
I also just want to highlight that Gina posted in the chat that TLC is going to be hosting AI ethics brown bag lunches. And this is something that TLC, AI use in particular, is something that the TLC has just been so helpful in providing guidance and support in. So to keep an eye out for that.
So how do we get them to check in and pay attention, basically, and some solutions to explore? And one thing is what we've gone through. How do we recalibrate our class policies and make them explicit? If one solution I've heard from people is, well, if make it a policy. If you wear a headphone, it means you're not present. I'd like to think what you think about that. We like marking people down as absent if they have their headphones, that being a class policy, or asking for no tech whatsoever as class policy, or saying put away your tech but bring it out when we're doing something as a class. So those are some solutions to explore in terms of class policies. Other solutions, some ways to build up and foster personal connection to the material, especially given the current political moment. How to create a collaborative and active learning environment. We'll talk about that, but how do we get them to buy in, to participate in class, to not be bored, to not say this is not something I want to do, but how to start them to actually have fun and take space and take part. How do we modify assignments to increase engagement outside of the classroom as well as inside the classroom? How do we use multiple forms of media in the classroom in terms of materials? Podcasts, BB said, I think. Also short, fun videos, but also some of these apps that we're going to talk about. And I'd like to, my disclaimer is I'm sort of a dinosaur about these. I'm not a big fan of tech. I might have tech phobia, but I am finding myself with AI and all of these apps, I need to make some changes, do something different. I have even seen some student comments like, Professor, use Kahoots. We'll talk. So
So first of all, and I'm sure all of you know this already, John Jay requires certain college-wide policies to be included in the syllabi, specifically around accessibility and plagiarism. I include, so these are the links on the PowerPoint when you get the PowerPoint. These are links. Like to include information about the Wellness Center. I don't know how many of you guys do that as a matter of practice, but the contemporary world is more stressful than ever. I don't know a single person who is not experiencing somewhat chronic stress, and that goes doubly for students. So I like to point them to that as a resource. CUNY has an LGBTQ resource center that has, so John Jay has a LGBTQ like student group. But there's also links to legal support, to know your rights, to social supports. John Jay has an immigrant student success center that I recently found out about, that I really encourage everybody to share with their students. CUNY has also recently created an immigration assistance project, which is an expansion of their legal support that had existed under CUNY Citizenship Now. So these are all resources that I really encourage you to share with students. The union, the PSC, has created a draft statement or a suggested statement that we include in our syllabi about support for immigrant students. This includes links to some of the resources I just mentioned, the legal supports that are available. And I think this is really critical to include for, what I hope are fairly obvious reasons, given that this is a quite literal, personal, and material concern for a significant number of our students and their communities, and also to sort of establish the classroom as a safe space, as a collaborative space, as a space that acknowledges sort of the outside context of students' lives outside to the classroom. So this next So this is the first paragraph is something I suggest people include in their syllabi. The union suggests. The next paragraph about names and pronouns is something I use. So a lot of students, you know, have names or pronouns that aren't on CUNY first that they would like to go by. And so I, at the beginning of the semester, sort of affirmatively review this policy with students and say, if there's any name or pronoun you want me to use for you, please make sure to tell me. And again, sort of just to establish what kind of environment I want for the students in the classroom. Yeah, I don't know if you guys already use policies like this or if you want to share some of the language that you use in the chat. But yeah, encourage everybody to do something like that. This next, you know, in John Jay, the politics of John Jay students are diverse, right? It's not a traditional like liberal arts school where everybody's like liberal hippie-ish, right? We have a lot of different political viewpoints. I don't know how much this comes up in other disciplines. Obviously, in political science, it's something that we confront more or less directly. My approach is always to say, I have politics, I have a political viewpoint. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I'm also not going to pretend it's the only political viewpoint out there. And to try to encourage students to share their diverse perspectives. There's a mayoral election this year, right? This fall, upcoming fall. So to whatever extent we can bring that into the classroom, I think it's helpful and important for students. So I'm always curious talking to people in other disciplines. Political science is very easy, right? It's a natural thing to bring in for, you know, for Spanish, for psychology, for what did we have? Experiential learning, interdisciplinary classes, for history. How do you guys bring, or how can you bring sort of contemporary politics into the classroom in a way that's productive?
Or something that relates personally to students, their identities, their experiences, their situation in general. How do you bring that into the classroom? Does that help them engage with the material more? Well, one thing that we've done, for example, is we have a little 3-4 page paper that we have everybody write, and it's about things like abortion cases, immigration cases, or policies, and students enjoy that a lot, either in terms of a class discussion or in terms of their personal assignments.
Yeah.
And we often teach these issues, of course. So it comes up a lot. And then, yes, if everybody is feeling safe to bring themselves into the classroom, it's great. What do you do? Would anybody like?
Jonathan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, my understanding is that as a public university, we're not supposed to take political stands on anything. So,
Well, we're not allowed to say like you should vote for this candidate. But I mean, no, we're allowed to say like
I
there's a political like
personally
that
think that
there's politics in the world that happen. So I guess I'm not sure what you
Mhm.
mean by political stance,
well,
but
it's not about indoctrinating or, of course, suggesting political views,
yeah.
but they often ask me, well, what do you think? After I've said, here are the 2 positions on this. Here are the 5 positions on this. Well, I'd like to do it like, I'd like to have it be inclusive and not really, I don't want to offend or other anybody, including conservatives, and but they know I'm a human being. Like Rosa said, that I might have an opinion, and here's how I would support that opinion, and then I would turn it over to them. And what is your opinion, and how do you support your opinion, with what sorts of because it's a part of critical thinking. But
Yeah.
I've been proud to have students come up to me and say I felt safe, voicing my minority opinion in your class. And so I'd like to set it up like that. Of course, not like you're bad if you disagree with me, or this is a suboptimal political viewpoint. It's always done in at least our classrooms. The effort is to make it a democratic civic space where, of course, we disagree and we argue with respect. But should we let
Well,
Crystal?
Crystal has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things that I do to allow students to sort of bring in their own views and opinions is an assignment on civic engagement. So I allow them to pick an area that is important to them, to talk about people who are grassroots or community engagers, advocates, activists who are bringing political issues to light, and have them bring in their own opinions about that. And also, where there's public policies, most of my curriculum is around criminal justice reform. And so there's obviously a lot of opinions about people being released, on supervised release, or not having to post cash bail. And so allowing them also to debate with each other about the value and challenges, impact of those public policies on marginalized communities, on their own communities. And so that allows it to be an opportunity for them to bring themselves into the space, but not feel threatened by having an opinion that may differ. And
they get excited when
they get the opportunity to debate that. So that's just two of the things that I do.
Would anybody like to add anything? So we were gonna. This is sort of a
So I'm talking about our strategies of engaging students. So we have how do we update our syllabi in terms of the policies that we're including in there, in terms of our expectations, in terms of the kind of assignments that we provide. The other is, what are we doing inside the classroom? And so this is about fostering a collaborative and active learning environment. Active learning means sort of having students engage with material, not in a passive, just listening perspective, but engaging them through activities that allow them to process and practice the concepts.
They check out after 10 minutes of you talking at them. So at that point, it becomes less useful. And at that point, you have to just pull them in and find something to do together so that they're participating and being active.
And collaborative learning, and this I really like, the idea of collaborative learning is they work together, but it's not like a group assignment, because everybody hates group assignments. I hate group assignments. I don't know if any of you have ever had a good personal experience with them. They suck, but it's really good when students get to learn together. And so this idea of collaborative learning is sort of a different approach. And one of the meaningful differences is that in collaborative learning, they are paired off or put into groups, but receive individual assessments or individual feedback or individual grades, right? And that's one of the markers of a difference between the two.
Yeah, part of that is involving them in peer-to-peer teaching, having student-led assignments, and again, there are a million ideas that could be tried here. We'd like to also hear. We're going to open this up at the end and we're going to save time for that, a whole group discussion among us so that we can hear your experiences and your ideas. But and then we'll talk about, how do you do peer-to-peer teaching? How do you do student-led assignments? But these are like two categories of things that we want to start trying more, that I at least want to start trying more, switching from a more lecture-based way of teaching to constantly engaging them, trying to engage them. And for example, have students present something, a concept, an event, a New York Times article in the beginning of classes, a couple of students a day, having students do parent shares, having prompts for them, having them then put aside, well, go aside, go somewhere to talk amongst themselves, pairing them to discuss low stakes assignments, to engage in low stakes assignments, and then have them share to the classroom. We do research papers where we scaffold them throughout the semester, and these were research papers, assignments that we came up with the TLC. Actually, we applied for grants, won some grants, and then under Win Ferdinand's leadership, we developed these writing assignments. Like I said, we have these writing assignments about current political issues where they might, throughout the semester, is scaffolded, so we operate one step at a time. And one thing that we do is often have them talk about how it's going, what their paper is about, what the issues are surrounding it, what research issues they're having, or what ideological things they're working through in trying to understand the issue. You could let students choose a debate topic and assign them to argue either side of an issue. I've heard of debates activities. I have used them sometimes, uh, involving them in presentations, etc. But so this is the novelty that I want your opinion on. We want your opinion on the kinds of novel apps or the kinds of digital resources that they might find useful, and that might help them engage better or more. So moving away from talking at them to breaking it up every 10 minutes, with here's one activity, here's some peer-to-peer teaching, here's some student-led assignment within the classroom. Also, here is a prompt from me for you to use. Let's pull out our phones or our digital devices and please answer this question that I have through this app or another. Please do this quiz that I have prepared for you on Kahoot. Again, like I said, it has been, so students have told me we would like more of this. Why don't you try this? So I'd like to hear your opinions. Have you tried anything like Kahoot or quizzes or Mentimeter or do polls? And so that helps break it up. And then, because as you can tell, I have a tendency to talk at students and people, and I'm trying to break it up and create interactive activities constantly. And one thing that I'm actually going to try is something I heard at a TLC conference and from a colleague. So I'm going to give them blue books in the beginning of the semester and say, you hold on to this for the whole semester. Every class, I'm going to have some sort of a prompt, a question that I ask you. And please mark it in your blue books. And at the end of the school year, I'm going to collect these. And that's going to be a part of your participation grade. And I'm going to increase the weight of the participation grade. This is an important part of your class. Instead of 10% for just having good attendance, maybe it's going to be 20%. And I need you to hold on to this blue book, don't lose it, bring it back, because I want them to write, and ChatGPT comes in here, they don't write anymore. The whole process of writing is them learning. So I would like to try this and we would like to hear your opinions. And so one example of doing all of these things, a collaborative and active learning environment, peer-to-peer teaching, student-led assignments, real-time interactive games. One way to do that is something I've read about called universal design for learning. Please let me know if you've studied this. But students are at different levels. Some students can do certain things, others can't, others want to, others don't want to. And I've been doing a lot of data literacy graphs, interactive graphs, we'll show you later, are really good and popular. And this is stuff that they need to know. So you could offer, one idea I have is, give them choice, give them options, give people at different levels options to participate and say, here's this graph. Let's answer whatever you want out of these 4 questions. Let's answer all of them if you want to answer all of them, either verbally or put it in your blue book. But it could be something as simple as, what do you notice about this graph? Give me any observation, as mundane as it might be. I see lines with 3 different colors. That could be enough in terms of their participation. I would be happy with that. Some might go further, right, and say, oh, I noticed that Democrats and gun violence have trended in this way. But we'd like to really learn about what sorts of in-class activities you guys have tried, what sorts of apps, what sorts of paper and pen things you've tried.
So those are examples of in-class activities. We're moving a little bit more quickly just because we're realizing that we are coming up on time.
And we want to leave you about 20 minutes to discuss these things.
Yeah. So ideas about how we can have more engagement outside of the classroom includes using things like bright-based discussion boards, although I don't know how, sometimes I think those can get a little rote. One thing that I really like to think about is, what tools, what apps am I already using, or what are they already using? So I've had students tell me that they have a class WhatsApp chat group. So one thing I've been thinking about is starting a WhatsApp chat group for the class, having a link in the syllabus that they can click through and join, or scan and join, just to kind of affirmatively provide that, so they have a space to talk to each other, ask questions outside of the class. The other is Slack. I don't know how many of you have used this before. I've used it in a professional capacity. This is a sort of like an online forum that has different chat channels. You could have a dedicated channel for a week's discussion, or relevant links, or memes, or TikToks, or whatever that they can share. And I actually, so they have to download an app. They have to get familiar with this. Sometimes they don't want to. And I had one semester where I had this required, and a student complained about having to sign up for a new app. And then 2 months into the semester, came to me and said, well, actually, thanks for introducing me to this, because I just started a new job and they require that we use Slack. And now I know what this is. And then Flipgrid is a video response app that actually, in Brightspace, has an option for using video responses. It's not something we've explored, or I've explored, but I wanted to note that as well. So these are some texts, and on the next
Rocio, we were one idea, so Brightspace is new and they have a
voice
bunch of
thread.
things
Okay, thank you,
we
Rocio.
haven't tried yet, or we don't know about yet. But Brightspace has, for example, a video tool, or is VoiceThread part of that, or is it separate?
Yeah, it's a third party cookie, I think they call it, and it's like an app inside Brightspace. So when you click on that, it directs you another site, but it's connected with Brightspace. So with VoiceThread you can use, because in languages, modern languages, we use it a lot. because you can only record voice, but also video. And you can you can choose share with all in the class, everyone in the class, or only one. You can use it for to share with the professor. So that's a good
And you
a
like it?
good tool. Yeah, I like it, but I need to find how the student can have a more accessible feedback, because all the comments are embedded in the video, and the students can, if they don't check the video, they cannot check the comments. So that's that. And also that's a thing that I have found with my students. We use technology, but they wanted to do the less effort. So everything has to be there without how they don't have to make any effort to looking for or whatever. So if something is not there so easily, they don't care. So that's why I'm trying to find how to give some feedback in voice thread. And if I make an I want to share my experience with Perusal that we said before. Yeah, the students are so they don't want to read, but we have we use I assign a book for reading during the whole throughout the semester. So I just assign this book on Perusal and assign, for example, 2 or 3 chapters per week, and they have to go there and comment and so and also this is Perusal. This reading this book is like their space. I just go there to read some comments or how they. I don't write anything because it's their space. So at the beginning, the comments is like, oh yeah, the main character do this or do that, but then they get involved with the story, and they, oh yeah, that reminds me the other day, whatever. So, and they're also they comment between them. So I that's what I like Perusal. And
We heard a lot about
interactive.
Perusal. Like
Yeah.
Rosa, so we're doing an online course shell right now. It's again part
Yeah.
of the program that but we have a design instructor who is a tech person, and he's like, okay, you should use Perusal. So this
Yeah.
is exactly the kind of thing this is for. I'm glad that you use it, and I want to use it. I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
So thank you so much for that suggestion. Hopefully maybe we can add it to the slide deck or add it to the notes that go out. I want to talk about the museums really quickly, and then we can skip ahead if you want to. One thing that I've used frequently in as many classes as I can is having outside event assignments. So I'll say, so one thing to note is that CUNY students get free or reduced admission to a lot of museums, a lot of institutions throughout the 5 boroughs. So I might say, here's a list of museums you have free access to. Pick one, go to an event, and write a response, right, based on your experience. I have them sometimes the Museum of the City. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's part of the Museum Mile, has a lot of great exhibits, a couple of standing ones about New York City history specifically. Lincoln Center often has free events. They have one this semester on as event series on the legacies of San Juan Hill, which is the neighborhood that existed prior to Lincoln Center, sort of the backdrop to West Side Story, which if you're a musical theater person like I am, is a fun tidbit. I might have them go to a place like the African Burial Ground to talk about the history of slavery in New York City. So, looking at places either that are nearby John Jay and thus more accessible, or that they have access to in their home borough, are good ways of getting them engaged outside of the classroom.
And we can have them bring it to the classroom, like we were saying, peer-to-peer teaching, and they could do a little presentation in the beginning of classes, and so on and so forth. Rosa, should I sort of rush through the rest of this so we can open it up for a
Yeah, I
discussion?
think so. Let's see.
We have
Yeah.
17 minutes here, and so what the rest of this has is a few things we've already talked about and mentioned, but in terms of assignments, we found it really useful in terms of increasing engagement both in the classroom and at home to really scaffold assignments, break long assignments into several smaller credit-bearing pieces, have them continually post this stuff, either in public or just for us, have them learn basic research skills together, bring in library personnel, make it into a workshop. What is your research? What are you looking for? Have you found anything? Why don't we try these search terms, this resource? And which brings me to the contents of the course, the readings and how they're long and how they can't do so many long readings anymore, academic readings, and what are some strategies we've tried in terms of that. One thing is, like we said, like one of us mentioned, uh, podcasts or, for example, multiple media, right? And instead of talking at them, I'm a big fan of like Vox videos or short videos like I'm Just a Bill, we know from School of Rock. And I use that for my Congress, How Does a Bill Become Law lesson. And we watched that together for 2 minutes, and everybody learns basically how law gets made, and they're all laughing, and they're all like, oh, yeah, I saw this. Or here's a podcast, or uh, our syllabi have changed into clickable links as a result of these changes in students and in the learning atmosphere, where even if they're just recommended, one thing that I do is I give them so many recommended articles or sources that they can use in their papers or exams and what have you. But here are going to be a lot of clickable articles. Here's a short video about the history of US immigration policy. Here's a fact sheet you can click on. Here's a Pew Research Center report. Click on these, please. Here are data sources that you should always have in your syllabus, at least for my purposes. Here's what you can use for your research papers or throughout the semester. But yes, the big question is, what are we going to do with readings if they're not doing readings? And one way we've tried to work on that is I've started to use a lot of New York Times articles that are like maybe a few pages, 5 pages, instead of 30-page academic articles. Sometimes it's going to be the author of the 30-page article writing a short New York Times article, and I assign the New York Times article instead. Or I break them down, or we could try reading in class, and this works well, especially with because they don't read outside. We have to just basically get whatever reading we can get done together. And in terms of especially primary source documents for political science, like let's read the decision in Brown v. Board of Education together. Let's read the Declaration of Independence, do sort of a textual analysis of it. What does this mean? Let's look at the Federalist 51. What did they mean here? And we can all read it together, their primary sources, or we can read one or two page op-eds or one or two page newspaper articles together, but also integrate a lot of infographics. For example, I just want to show you this right here. When I put up something like this, they get engaged and I teach them a lot of data literacy, and I also have them become engaged and they learn a lot, I think. For example, this is deaths from alcohol, drugs, and suicide among people without college degrees in America throughout the years versus people with college degrees. And there is obviously a big difference, or something about the New York Times has all these beautiful interactive graphics, especially this one. I just want to show you this real quick. They've done this longitudinal study of here's this many black boys, here's this many white boys. They all started as one of these 4 or 5 different kinds of classes, socioeconomic classes. And here's where they ended up after we looked at them for longitudinal research over 20, 30 years. And you see the racial inequality in terms of where they end up. Even if they started as rich black boys, how they're less likely to end up rich black men when they grow up than others. So that is, easier reading. It's also, I think, more interesting reading. But here we would like to not necessarily put you aside for a discussion, but let's have a group discussion. So let's talk about these strategies. Let's talk about your other strategies that you've tried that you would like to share. But again, yes, what are your problems? What sorts of solutions are you are you trying? Have you tried? How are you working these things into your syllabi? Uh, we have 11, 12 minutes. We hope to have 20 minutes, but let's talk about those. Who wants to say something?
Yeah, have any of the, like, have you guys used Kahoot? Have you had them go to places outside of the classroom? Rocio talked about using VoiceThread. Yeah, what of these have you done or would like to do?
Or in terms of readings, how have you adjusted your readings, and how have you adjusted yeah. Does anyone have recommendations like Rocio did about perusal or okay, so first, let's be maybe more deliberate about it. Has anyone used, this is what I'm curious about. I'm sort of reluctant or resistant a little bit, like Kahoot or quizzes, where was that? During the class. I'm looking for, sorry, I can't find it. During the class. Yes. Have you used any of these sorts of tools to break up the teaching and have them participate? What do you think about how that involves using tech if you want to avoid that? How do you balance the two? Has anyone tried these?
Yeah, I have used Kahoot mainly to instead of make quizzes for grammar topics, for example, in Spanish, I choose Kahoot instead of that, and they really liked it, and they were more engaged, and they were like, I think they remember more easily those topics. So and also because this well, there's always a winner. Also, the winner will have an extra point or whatever. So they engage, really engage. So but also I think for me it takes a lot of time to make a Kahoot
Yeah.
quiz, no? But it is they like it, even though it was created for like elementary schoolers, no?
Well, they're like that's the issue that we're having. They're 17 or 18, right? And that's like I have a 13-year-old son, and I see so many similarities. They're, I mean, not to be diminutive but they're still young adults or older children in a way, right? I don't want to,
Yeah.
but Ashley, yes, they like it, and I've heard good things about it. I actually got feedback from my students. Use Kahoot, professor, so I'll try it this time. Ashley?
Hi, I haven't used Kahoot, but I've used something that I think is pretty similar called Slido.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar because there's just like a code and you submit words based on a prompt. So I think from my knowledge, that's what Kahoot also provides. But I like to use it for moments that might be a little bit controversial when I'm asking a question. Like, so I teach a class called self media and society, and we talk a lot about stereotypes that can be perpetuated by the media and things like that. So if I want people to speak really freely, like what are some stereotypes you've seen, in the media that you've watched? I'll have people submit words and we just look at them all together and have people speak on the ones that they feel like they have something to say about, if they would like to share, things like that. Or we talk a lot about relationship to the news. So like, what are some words that come to mind when you think about news media, and have them just kind of respond in that way. And I've found that it's pretty helpful to get the class engaged, at least if they're not going to raise their hands after I ask questions about the words, I'm able to use the words that they submitted to kind of turn things around and ask more questions.
And do you watch clips together in
Yeah.
this process?
Yes, absolutely. And even in the beginning, I tried something last semester that I really thought was useful. I had them create ground rules in the beginning on the first day in like small groups, and we came up with rules together for these discussions. And I think that also helped
I've heard of
create
that.
more of that engaged environment as well.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And how do you, so I have two questions. So one about this. How do you then integrate these things into, and I know about ungrading as a method and certainly that's one possibility, but how do you integrate this into the makeup of their grade? How do you give them flowers basically for participating in doing these things?
I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put it, I've thought of putting it into the participation grade and making that a bigger part that they will care about as opposed to some side thing. Oh, you just show up and sign your name. And Rocio, so that's part of your participation grade?
Yeah, no, yeah, no, not like participation grade, but I have a percentage for class activities.
Okay.
So it includes all the classwork that we do in during the sessions. So that this using I use it part like part of this class activities.
Great idea. Yeah, and the other question was in terms of these policies uh, about tech and use of tech in the classroom. So do you have any sort of dilemma about, oh, I don't want them to be on their tech, but I want to use some of these methods? How do you balance that? How do you juggle? So have you tried to ban anybody, digital tools, or semi-ban them, or how do you integrate them into the class without adding to their distraction, basically? So does anybody have any tech rules like no, or it's
I,
fine?
um, I in one of my ISP classes, which is a tech and culture class actually, um, 2 semesters ago, or rather in the very beginning, maybe like 3 semesters ago, we said you are allowed to use AI. We didn't want to be punishing students who were using AI. You just need to give it credit. So we went like fully on board, advocating for its use, critical, but disclosing its use, and always, not for cheating, but for, different reasons that students might be using it.
Mhm.
Then the following semester, because the use of AI got exponentially, I would say, on the bad side of AI use, not critically, but really just for cheating and saving yourself time
Mm-hmm.
as a student, we said no use of AI at all unless we actually ask you to use it. And then we designed, we gave the students materials with regards to the environmental impacts of AI and the political and economic implications of AI, and the labor abuse of AI outside of the US. And then we asked the students to use AI to, it was like a scaffolded assignment, but we asked them to use AI to ask a question that they had already organized in their heads and jotted down their thoughts by hand, and then compared to what AI was answering, how AI was answering their question. And then we asked them to calculate the environmental impact of their use of AI in that assignment.
I love that.
And a lot of the students came back and said, well, I didn't know all of this was happening, and also the labor abuses abroad, etc. A lot of the students said that they didn't know, and of course they don't know because that's not being advertised. And a lot of them claimed that they were going to restrict themselves from using AI. I don't know if that happened. There's no way for us to know, but that was sort of like the result of this exercise. For this semester, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. For EJ, definitely I want to be bringing this up in terms of the water usage, the energy usage, the different aspects that refer to environmental justice. For tech and culture, I think I would adapt that and reorganize that assignment that I think worked well.
And lastly, real quick, I think we're out of time, but how do you wrestle with phones and headphones?
Myself, I
In your class?
asked them to get their headphones out, that it's really, that they're in a classroom, that we should all be communicating. But I do know that some students use it for noise reduction and emotional. I also build in a lot of like emotional skill building in terms of, everything that we teach is high stakes at this point. And I think that students' emotional literacy is not there. So they don't even recognize sometimes that they might be stressed out of reading something that is awful. So I try to bring them back to that state and elaborate on how we're all feeling about this and give them all the resources at John Jay and outside, etc. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, headphones are difficult.
I just feel like I'm talking to someone who's totally not listening to me often.
Yeah.
One thing also for distinguishing between people who are using it kind of as a distraction versus those who are really like using it to help self-regulate. One policy that I have in my class is if I'm not getting enough engagement or participation, I warn them at the beginning of the semester, I'll just start calling on people. Like I'll just say like, oh, you're here today, you're up for it. And if somebody's wearing a headphone, I'll call on them, right? And so if they're paying attention, they're prepared, and if they aren't, they aren't. But it's one way also of kind of maintaining that check-in. And thanks everyone so much Thank you
both
so much.
so much.
Thank
This
you,
was great.
everyone.